Okay, let's look at the tiddle. Tiddle. So we'll just do it slowly, and I'll use this to sort of explain what's going on. It says here that um, Tiddle expects to produce 40,000 pots of paint using 5,000 labor hours. So the reason why this matters is that we need to know, well, how many labor hours do we need to make a pot? So one pot, therefore, must be 5,000 over 40,000 pots, which comes to 5,000 divided by 40,000, which comes to 0.125 hours. So 0.125 hours is our standard time to make a pot. And we're told very helpfully that the standard cost of making of labor is £7 an hour. Remember, we're talking about inputs here. So I'm just going to draw my graph so I can get some understanding of this. So at 0.125, that's your plan. And we're going to go at the standard of £7 an hour. Right. Now, it says that we make 41,000 pots. So if we make 41,000 pots, I expect you to therefore spend 0.125 times 41,000. Remember, this is all based on the flex because we're not, we're thank you so much for the 40,000, but now we move on, now that we've got our 0.125, and use that to assess and see. So we are expecting you to use or to spend 5,125 hours making these pots. That's what I'm expecting you to do, to spend 5,125 actual hours. I think that's really important. 5,100. I'm actually expecting you to be working um, for five. This is the efficient sort of ideal, if you like, this thing here, 5,125. When I budget, I'll actually budget technically for more than this, so to speak, because I expect you to have some rest. But this 5,125 is the time you would actually take, as you can imagine, right? That's all you can do. You can multiply for what actually really happens, and then what you do is you put some extra just to give time. Um, so if you like that, I'll put that there, 5,125 hours is what I'm expecting you to do. Now, what happens next is important. It says here that actual hours paid for 5,200. That's, wow, great stuff. So 5,200. But of these 5,200 hours that were paid, 300 were idle. So you actually made the products in 5,200 minus 300. You actually made the products in 4,900 hours, but you were hanging around for 300 hours. So the actual time you spent making the products was actually 4,900. So we expected you to do it in 5125, but you actually spent 4,900 working on the product. I'm doing this first because the first thing I want to do is to sort of look at the efficiency variance, just because, so you can just clearly see the difference. So the point here is this, that I'm expecting you to do this thing in, and efficiency is really about the actual time you spent. I will, yes, I will include this idle time. I'm not denying that, but I'm just saying that let's just look at how well you worked. I can't blame you for the machine breakdown, right? You made these 41,000 pots, not in 5,200 hours, actually. You made them in 4,900 hours, right? Machine was just broken down for 300 hours. So my efficiency variance, of course, will be comparing, if you like, these two things. And so what we have here for efficiency is 5,125 minus 4,900 times 7 pounds. 5,125 minus 4,900 times 7, and that's 1,575. So 1,575 is your efficiency variance, is 1,575, and that is favorable. That's a favorable variance. That's the first thing. Um, the next thing we want to look at, now this is, I'll just change my pen color here, that I decided to look at was to look at the labor rate variance. Now, the labor rate variance is very much on what we've paid, right? It's just we've paid a certain amount on a certain number of hours. That's really the point. And the point, this isn't to do with efficiency. It's just saying what's the difference in what you paid versus what you should have paid. Well, you should pay £7 on every hour, and you paid on 5,200 hours. I mean, the 5,200 comes in here because I'm going to assess um, things being idle. So you should have paid £7. Yes, you paid whatever it is. The point is you paid on 5,200 hours. That's the point. So in terms of pricing variances, you should have paid 7 times 5,200, which would have been 7 times 5,200. You should have paid 36,400. But what did you pay? You ended up paying, the question tells us that the actual wage bill was 39,000. So you have a labor rate variance of 39,000 minus 36,400, 39,000 minus 36,400, which is 2,600 adverse, right? That's the situation here, that you have paid. Yeah, and this is purely based on price, purely based on price. Because I mean, I could find out what it is. It doesn't matter. It's probably up here, right? That's what you actually did. You paid a higher price for those hours, and that's your rate variance. That's your rate variance. So I suppose you can sort of see where the efficiency variance is. I mean, the final thing that concludes this variance is this bit over here, which is really the difference or the idle time. So we wasted, if you like, we had an idle time, if you like, variance here, an adverse variance of 300 hours, of course, which is the difference between kind of what you actually did versus what you've paid, right? Idle time is the difference between what did you actually work and what was actually paid. So in terms of efficiency, it was 4,900, and they give it to us actually. They tell us, there we are straight away, the 300. And so really, this variance, of course, is 300 times just the £7. We're just focusing, it's an efficiency variance. So we always use the standard costs. And so we have a 2,100 adverse variance. It's always going to be adverse. Well, I mean, most of the time it's going to be. I mean, you could have the rare occasion, but I don't know how that's going to work. So we're really just, this question is, I mean, I feel this term is slightly misleading. It just means account for the idle time, I would say. Account for the idle time. Our syllabus doesn't really contain really analyzing standard variances with actual standard idle variances with actual idle variances. We're not really doing that. We're just saying, what is the cost as a result of idle time? And that is your 300 hours of idle time times the standard rate of 7. Yes, and so what we now have here is 2,100 adverse as well. So when we find the total, when we want to work out the total labor variance, we can just, because these two really are efficiency variances, we just add them all together. When I say add them all together, 2,600 plus 2,100, I mean, these are adverse variances, and subtract the favorable variance of 1,575, which is equal to 3,125 adverse in the end. And I will do the next question, because it in a way confirms what we've just done here in 82. But again, I think it's a good it's a good it's a good practice to look through what's going on. Okay.